Hi everyone, Scott with CyberScribe.org, and in this Python Byte we're going to be talking about list comprehensions with conditionals and doing a little bit more advanced, more complex usage of list comprehensions. So as a review, a technique to get into working with list comprehensions is to first do your assignment of your new list just in a simple for loop here, and then you translate that into your one-line list comprehension. So here we have our value assignment in your list comprehension is going to be first, and then after your value assignment is going to be your iteration. You're moving through these different values. That's going to be second. So today what we're doing is we are going to be talking about adding in conditionals. So first let's go through and let's just print these out, make sure that they are the same. These are what we would expect because we're just taking the fqdn and we're splitting it on the period and taking the first value. Split on the period, taking the first value of that. And that's what we expect to get, and that's what we get. Now let's say talking about conditional statements, so that's what we're going to be talking about here. Let's say for some reason you only want, or let's say kw signifies something that you do not want. You want to just take that out. For some reason, maybe that's a different business unit or something, and you don't want kw in the host name. So what you can do is add a conditional. And I need to change this up a little bit, but we're going to say not in. Not in. So doing the same exact thing, but this is our conditional statement here. So remember, this is just your host name, but we do not want kw in there. So what we should have here is we should have a new list with ABC and DEW, not the third one. So let's go through that and let's just double check. And that's correct. So this is a little bit more involved as a list comprehension. And you have to be careful with some of these things. Like the idea is still to make it readable on a single line. So you don't, you can do, these are very powerful. You can really do a lot. But, if you're if it's becoming more complex, maybe you could even do, for example, like a function to do this split or something a little bit more involved. And then you can clean up your comprehension a little bit. Or maybe you just don't use it. Just because they're available doesn't mean that they need to be used all the time. Readability, understandability are the two most important things. This is just another technique to kind of do it, but you want to try to do it in a smart way. So first example, what we're going to do is, and really second example, but we'll call it one, is working with another list and we're filtering values. So let's say that you have this counter and this is for the runtime of a script. And what you want to do is you want to get all the values that are over 3 or 3 seconds from this. So like I said, it helps to kind of learn about list comprehensions and how to construct them by just doing your list creation with the for loop first, and then copying and pasting your values into your list comprehension, and then you kind of get a good sense of how the structure is. So here, again, it's just your looping through counter, and then you have your conditional right here, and if it matches, you're appending to that high counter list. So high counter 2, this is our list comprehension. So you see it's getting a little bit more of a difference in amount of code for this. And this is kind of a nice one. It's still easy to read. So here your value is first, And if you think about it, your value assignment in the loop is last. Then next comes your iteration, and here your iteration, and then your conditional comes last here, and this is your conditional right here. So if you think about it, you start with your value assignment, and then everything else seems to go in order. So you have your iteration and then your condition, and in here, iteration and then condition. So let's go through and just print these out. And I'm going to sort them just so it'll be easier to read, but these should be the same. And they are the same. So this is a pretty good example. Is it 100% real life? No, but it's decent enough that you can kind of run with it and see where it can go from here. So this is just working with a list. What if you want to work with a list of dictionaries? That's a pretty common data structure. So let's do that, and let me do some more copying and pasting here. So what we have is, let's say you have a list of dictionaries, and each one is contains employee information. So think of even like from a CSV or spreadsheet, you're going to have a similar structure to this. So what you want to do, again, is let's just do write out our for loop. And here again, creating a list, and then we're just doing our iteration, and then checking to see if admin is in this employee groups field. So you see here groups is a list right there. So you're checking to see if admin is in this list. If it is, you're appending, but you're not appending the whole thing. You're just appending the name. So what we want is we want admins, and we want the names of admins. So if you see two admins here, we should have Dan and Phil as the emp info list. Now, let's just let's construct our emp info 2 list comprehension, and we'll just kind of copy and paste from here to create it. So again, we have our list declared. So we're going to say employee name. Okay, right here. Then we have our iterator for employee in employee info, and then we have right here if admin is in this group. So what we can do is we constructed our list comprehension from our other loop. Now let's check and see if they're the same. They should be. Phil and Dan, they are the same. So like I said, this is a pretty good way to learn how to do and get in the habit of list comprehensions, is at least in the beginning for a couple, until you get the hang of it. Write your for loop first, and then copy and paste those items into your comprehension. One more example, and we will be finished. So here, it's a little bit of a different thing, where it's the same information, but each key in this dictionary is the name. And so this is more nesting. And this is, well, you'll see how it runs into a little bit of, is this one really a good idea to put as a list comprehension? Now keep in mind, this is very big font, and it's just big font. So it's going to look bigger, but I'll leave that up to everybody else to decide whether this should be a list comprehension or not. Again, creating your list, your new list with just a traditional loop here. And then what we'll do is let's construct our list comprehension. Again, just copying and pasting here. So employee, right? These are the keys. So we're going to say employee for employees in employee info. And these are a little bit long as variable names. So maybe this is why, but you'll see what we're talking about. this is a long conditional, and it's a long conditional because you have your nesting. But if you need to put it in there if you want to get the desired value. So again, this is a long line, but here, even in this screen, it spilled over into 2. So again, debatable whether this is getting too complex. Is this too unreadable? I mean, you have to think about readability. This is like the other way to do it. So compare readability to this versus readability with this. And then kind of just make the call from there. Then we'll just go and we'll print these out and we will see. And they are Phil and Dan. So these are effectively the same thing. But again, you're getting into territory where, is this really too complex for a list comprehension? And it's really not complex. It's just the nesting makes it long. So is this maybe a better way to say it? Is this too long for a list comprehension? Is this okay? That's kind of up to your judgment. But the point is, for the list comprehensions, they should still be readable. So I should still be able to go through this line and say, okay, emp admins 2, we're going to set the value of employee for each employee in this employee info dictionary if admin is in this nested structure here. And if you think about that, that is still kind of readable. But again, opinions vary on these things. They always do. So that's all I had for this video. And like I said, just wanted to give you a little bit more idea of what list comprehensions are capable of and what they can do. They're very useful and they're very powerful, and it's really good stuff to know. So like I said, that's all I had for this Python Byte, and stay tuned for future bytes.